Ezekiel found himself on the defensive as Renji would use his Zanpakuto Zabimaru, using it to extend and attack at length. He would create space as he fired back his Reishi arrows. The Quincy and the Soul Reaper engaged in combat. For Renji, he let out his anger and his frustrations as he attempted to strike at Ezekiel, wishing, hoping that Ichigo would make an appearance. It was all his fault. Rukia was going to die because of him. If she'd never taken that stupid mission, she'd never come across that idiot human. And now, as if this bastard hadn't taken everything away, he had the audacity to show up and couldn't even show himself. Instead, he sent a lousy, pathetic Quincy to fight him. A lieutenant! Renji was going to make him suffer. Ezekiel, Ichigo, whatever the hell he wanted to call himself. Ezekiel, on the other hand, would try to keep his composure. Hanataro and Ganju watching from a distance as they played a game of long-range combat. Deadly for the one that got tagged first. Zabimaru was very effective not just in defense, but even in offense. None of his arrows could even land a strike, and Zabimaru had been pushing him back. Damn, of all the people I had to come across, the one person that doesn't give me an opening. Ezekiel would then try for using one of the techniques he had come up with. His training under Uryu had proven to be beneficial. Of course, every Quincy was ultimately adaptable and had to find a style that worked best for them. For Ezekiel, he took a page out of nature. A hunter, more often than not, never really gave way to the tactics of its prey, but his power would reflect that. It all came in how he built up his reishi, his spiritual energy. As a Quincy, they had the ability to pull and manipulate reishi that was in the atmosphere. And of course, depending on where you were, a place that was built with thick reishi would be more suitable. Take, for example, a place like Hueco Mundo or the Soul Society, where reishi is abundant in the atmosphere. It's easier for a Quincy to gather up the reishi needed to use in combat, while a less experienced Quincy on Earth would have more difficulty. At least that's how it was explained. So, Ezekiel had to come up with a technique that could best reflect that. And that's when he came up with animal arrows. It was all based on a system, how long he held back the bowstring. For example, his first attack against Renji would be the rabbit arrows. Rabbit, a small but speedy little creature that could sometimes be very tough to hit and was able to bounce off almost anything. When he held back the bowstring for 5 seconds, he would shoot off 5 arrows. But these 5 arrows were very distinct. Because of the reishi that was made within them, the arrows could bounce off of any surface as long as it was non-organic. They would bounce until they would hit their target. As Ezekiel would fire off his rabbit arrows, now Renji found himself on the back foot. As he called back Zabimaru, he would have to deflect every arrow that was shot towards him. And even for the ones that missed, say the one arrow that shot past Renji's head, it bounced off the wall right behind him and was shooting right back to him in the back. At the last moment, he would extend Zabimaru to block against the arrow. They were pesky arrows to keep track of, and their speed It would take an experienced Soul Reaper to be able to count where they were going. But he had underestimated him. As Ezekiel would fire off more shots of the rabbit arrows, Renji would use Zabimaru to strike them all before slamming the front of his blade into Ezekiel, knocking him into a wall. You like that? My power doesn't feel like it did before, huh? That's because when we're in the human world, Soul Reapers that are captain and lieutenant level have to put a cap on their power so as not to affect the humans in the area. But you're in my world now. In the Soul Society, I don't have to hold back. And now, you'll feel the full force of a true Soul Reaper, Quincy. Is that all? Ezekiel said. He was bleeding, the blood soaking into his suit, but still he stood. If that's the best you can do, if that's the best you lieutenants and captains have to offer, I'm gonna be just fine. You talk like it's that simple. Even if you got past me, and believe me, there's no way in hell that you can, you would still have 12 more captains, 12 more lieutenants. Do you really think you can beat all of us? I don't just think, I will. Because you're nothing. Why does it even matter to you? Rukia never gave you her powers. You're nothing but some construct of a mentally challenged substitute Soul Reaper who thinks he's a hotshot even when he's not. You have no reason to fight. That's where you're wrong, Ezekiel said, as he readied his bow. I have every reason to fight. I'm a Quincy. You're a Soul Reaper. And you know something? I don't hate you for the reason that you think. I don't hate you because you're a Soul Reaper, although a lot of you have a certain attitude I can't stand. I don't hate you on behalf of the Quincy's. Hell, I don't even know why I am one. You want to know why I hate you, Renji? Why I hate you so much? It's because I see through your bullshit. Soul Reapers. You go and you act like you're doing humanity such a big favor just by existing. And yet all you do is talk down to humans. You talk about us like we're weak, like we're fragile. But what do you know? And what do you know about Soul Reapers? Do you know how many die fighting the Hollows? They die to keep the balance of the world. But you wouldn't understand that. No, because as long as you serve on your righteous high horse, then it doesn't matter to you. You would destroy the entire world just to prove you're right. No, I just want to destroy you. Ezekiel would fire off his arrow that he had held for 15 seconds. The second arrow, the deer arrow. This arrow gave off the aura and the vestige of the deer. Similar to the reflection of its sharp antlers, the reishi of a deer arrow was rather sharp and piercing. With enough concentration and focus, he was attempting to use it like a spear and stab right through Renji. The deer arrow was almost effective, as Zabimaru would have to be used on the defensive to block it. The game of cat and mouse would continue between both Renji and Ezekiel, Renji getting tagged a few times before eventually finding the pattern. Every 5 seconds, that's it. Every 5 seconds he's using those damn rabbit arrows. Every 15 seconds He shoots off that deer arrow. The rabbit ones can bounce off of any non-organic surface, and they're pretty pesky to keep track of. While the deer, that one's more sharper and deadly, like a fire-piercing round, trying to drill its way into its opponent and skewer them. So that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to throw me off guard before he tries to impale me. But he won't get the chance. Through Ezekiel's mind, he thought that he was getting Renji caught into a trap. If he could keep him backed up just long enough, he could take him down. He could win this. Suddenly, as Zabimaru would extend, it would slash through the rabbit arrows. As Renji would dodge the deer arrow, before finally Zabimaru would sink its blades into Mr. Knight. "Oh no!" Hanataro would yell. "He's got him!" Multiple slashes would be lashed across Mr. Knight, his now pristine and white suit stained into a crimson red, as Zabimaru would cut him all over. Eventually, Renji would use Zabimaru to slam Mr. Knight into the ground repeatedly as the sword would retract. "I told you, in this world, I am your superior. You might be fast, but I'm just faster. You might be strong, but I'm just stronger. In the end of the day, when it comes down to it, your spirit and mine are in two totally different dimensions. You can't possibly hope to reach me or reach Rukia. If you think you stand any chance of surviving, you better call out that damn Shinigami. Bring out Ichigo and quit with this farce." "You want Ichigo? Why? You want him so bad. I can see it all over your face." It's kind of pathetic when you think about it. What was that? You're so bent up on Ichigo. But the real problem is you, right? I'm warning you. Bring him out right now. Kiss my ass, Renji. I'm not gonna let him come out. Because truthfully, why should he waste his time on you? A coward. That's what you are. You keep spouting on and on about how I can't save Rukia, about how it's impossible. But who are you telling that to? You telling that to me, Ichigo? Or are you telling that to yourself? I know what it is. If you call yourself a loser enough times, you'll start to believe it. If you think you'll fail enough times, then you'll start to believe that you can't succeed. You speak it into existence. You stew in it. And you allow it to take over you. Shut up. What's the matter? You mad because you don't have the balls to save Rukia yourself? It's okay, Renji. You want to let her down again? By all means, go ahead. After all, that's what you're best at. Roar! Zabimaru! Renji yelled out. Fine, I don't care. I'll cut you into ribbons. I'll cut you into so many pieces. I'll show you it's impossible. Ezekiel would be slashed in the back over and over again. He attempted to dodge, to try to raise his bow in attempts of defending himself, only for Zabimaru to snap the bow in half, breaking it. Damn! In that moment, a flashback would appear in his mind, but they were not his own memories. They were Ichigo's. When Ichigo was training with Urahara, and Ichigo ran. I have to say, Ichigo, I'm very disappointed. What? All I can feel from your Zanpakuto is fear. When you block my attacks, you do it because you fear getting hit. When you run away, it's because you fear dying. Your blade reeks of fear. It's honestly pathetic. When you counter, you don't counter because you're afraid of getting hit. You counter because you're not going to let something touch you. When you protect someone, you don't do it just hoping that they won't die. You do it because you know you can't let them die. And when you fight, you don't fight out of fear. You don't attack just to live. You attack to kill. If you can't even do that, you will succumb to fear. Tell me, will you let fear rule your world, Ichigo? It's all about resolve. Do you have it, Ichigo? I can train you. I can give you every technique you ever want. But if you don't have the resolve to use it, then it's over. You have the gun, Ichigo. Pull the trigger. You have the sword. Strike him down. You have the shot. Take it. Ezekiel would snap back to his senses as Renji would prepare his next strike. 1, 2, 3. That's it. He can only strike in 3 strikes before the blade retracts. He remembered. It's like a weapon. The stronger the weapon, the more limited the shots you can take. A revolver has 6 shots. A missile has 1. Renji has 3 strikes. So that's it then. It's over, Renji said. Give up. Yeah, I think we're past that, Ezekiel said. He raised his broken bow as he ripped off the sleeves of his coat and tied it up to fix it. You're coming at me with a broken weapon? How desperate are you? How desperate am I? You're about to find out. And you'll really wish you hadn't. He would bring back the bowstring as Renji would prepare to strike with Zabimaru. At first, he would fire the rabbit arrows, firing off in certain positions to distract Renji, long enough for him to get close as he brought back the bowstring once again. But this time he held it, and he wasn't holding back. What's he going for? Renji thought. Rabbit? Deer? 10 seconds. 15 seconds. He fired off the deer shot. He fired it from above as Renji would block it at the last moment. But there were 2 rabbit arrows about to strike from the left and the right. Renji would spin around with Zabimaru blocking them as well, as Ezekiel would pull back the bowstring again before running towards Renji. Renji's sword would pull back as he was ready to fire off another succession of strikes. 15 seconds, 20 seconds. As he moved, Zabimaru would extend, stabbing him in the shoulder, cutting him deeply. 30 seconds, 35 seconds. Mr. Knight would then raise the bow staff to strike at Renji, only for Renji to kick it away and break it fully. Don't come at me with that weak shit! 45, 50. He spun around with Zabimaru, striking him in the legs. The second strike. The third strike. 55. 1 minute. The blade would now retract. But even in its cooldown state, Mr. Knight didn't have a bow. He didn't have anything to fire. He could strike him here and now. You're finished! No. A cold aura washed over Ezekiel as Renji felt the full force of his power. I'm not the one that's finished, Renji. You are. What? You made a mistake, my friend? Quincy's might fight with bow staffs. We might use arrows, but they're not a requirement. In fact, I was fighting long before I had one. What? What are you getting at? I'm saying I charged up my final attack. The only problem is, without a bow, I can't fire accurately from a distance. However, from this range, I can't miss. Wait, what are you? You block an attack because you won't let it cut you. You protect people because you won't let them die. And when you strike, you aim to kill. Now, Renji Abari, I show you true resolve. Buffalo Arrow. The power of the buffalo, the mighty bison, a ferocious creature. It was said that once it moved, it could not be stopped. That it had the power and the force of over 100, 1,000 men. And at point-blank range, with a fully charged attack, the Buffalo Arrow, Ezekiel would unleash its full force at point-blank range at Renji. Despite his best defenses, he had no chance of stopping it, no chance of slowing it down. The attack would land and hit its mark as Renji Abari was sent flying, careening into the side wall, until eventually he was buried within it, a deep crater. By the time the smoke had finally cleared from the attack, Ezekiel would be the last one standing. At that moment, Renji would reflect on his choices, on everything that brought him here. There was a time when both he and Rukia grew up together in the Rukon district, before she was taken in by the Kuchiki family. From that day forth, Renji had always vowed that he would one day stand by her side again. But no matter how hard he trained, despite all of his efforts, despite all the climbing in rank, he could still never match the likes of the Kuchikis. He could never even beat Byakuya. And now he had lost. Not even to the substitute Soul Reaper that he hated, but to the Quincy. Renji breathed heavily as he staggered to his feet, but all he could do was stand. You're something else. You know that. I didn't have the strength. I couldn't save her. I knew if I tried, I'd fail. But maybe that was my own cowardice. I was too scared to try. But you're different. Renji would grab hold of Ezekiel. Please. You've beaten me. My pride. All of it. It doesn't matter. I don't care what it takes. Please. Save her. As Renji looked up, he didn't look into the eyes of Ezekiel, but who stood before him, the substitute Soul Reaper Ichigo Kurosaki. I will. As Ichigo would pass out from pain and exhaustion, as Hanataro and Ganju would hold him. In the meantime, Kenpachi grinned as he felt the aura of Renji Abari begin to fade. Do you feel that, Yachiru? What's that, Kenny? It seems that the Ryoka has managed to defeat Renji. Wow! He took out a lieutenant! How strong do you think he is, Kenny? Who knows? But I think this is just the beginning. There's so much more. So much more. And I want to feel it. All of it. Kenpachi grinned. The hunt within the Sarate would continue. Ichigo and the others continuing in the race to save Rukia. But in the meantime, another plot was amiss. It started the next morning when Lieutenant Momo found a shocking scene. By the time the other lieutenants had gathered to see what had caused her so much terror, all that could be heard was Momo's blood-curdling screams. For outside, on one of the walls, lied the body of a captain, splattered in blood and pinned through the heart. No, it can't be. No way. What the hell? Captain Eisen! This concludes Bleach Midnight. What If Ichigo Was MoonKnight? Season 1, Part 6. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned this Monday as we continue with Bleach Midnight. What If Ichigo Was MoonKnight? Season 1, Part 7. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.